We're going to be talking live to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, on what by any account really has to be an exceptionally difficult morning for her politically. Because, as we were saying earlier, there are all these elephants. She wants to talk about the economy.
Of course.
She wants to talk about being a bit more upbeat about the economy. But what she cannot get away with is this stampede of elephants, which has been pursuing the Labour Party since this story about freebies broke. So we can go straight now to the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves. Good morning, Ms Reeves. Can you hear us all right?
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're having
quite,
to be with you.
You're having quite a morning. Free suits, free glasses, free Taylor Swift tickets, free holidays, and in your case, a free £7,500 worth of posh frocks, which when you declared it, which you did, frankly, it looks as if you were being a bit evasive about it, because you didn't describe them as dresses or clothes. You called it support. Shouldn't you just have been upfront about it and said, I've got a gift of free clothes?
Well, an old friend of mine wanted to support me during the election campaign, and the way that she wanted to support was to help me buy clothes for the campaign trail and for big events, and I was very grateful for that support. We declared it in the proper way, and we asked the registrar the best way to record it, and we did it in the way that was asked of us. I never planned to continue this in government, but it was something that was very beneficial to me during the campaign.
It doesn't look good, does it, to call dresses support? It looks as if you're trying to be vague about it, obfuscating.
Well, look, the way that we record things is the way that we are asked to record things. I do understand why people think it is a bit odd. I get that. It's not something that myself or other ministers are going to continue doing now that we are in government. But political campaigns do rely on donations. I think it is right that the majority of political campaigns is funded by donors, big and small, rather than taxpayers. And I think it is very important that all of that is declared properly so people can judge whether there are, for example, conflicts of interest.
What do you say to the many people, far too many to read out on air this morning, and you've seen the letters to the papers and you've seen what's happening on the internet. This story's gone viral with the public, not with the media, but with the public. And they see you as being exactly the same as the Conservatives that you constantly attacked for having their snouts in the trough.
Can I give you one example? Angela Rayner back in 2021, Deputy Prime Minister now, but 3 years ago said, who do you think you are, Boris Johnson, telling working-class people to rely on their own efforts when you go around with a begging bowl to donors to pay for your posh new wallpaper? And you can't live off your salary. Disgusting. What is the difference between Boris Johnson asking donors to pay for wallpaper and Labour MPs asking donors to pay for holidays and clothes?
Well, if I remember correctly, there were issues around the transparency of those donations that weren't properly declared at the time. But let me give you an example of something that I'll be announcing.
Angela Rayner did not mention transparency in that tweet. Angela Rayner specifically said, you're telling working-class people to rely on their own efforts while you go round with a begging bowl to donors. When you can't survive on your salary, that's disgusting. Nothing about transparency or declarations. What is different when Labour MPs do it to when Tory MPs do it?
Well, we're now in government and we know that different rules apply and we have to hold ourselves to the highest standards when we are making decisions both around tax and spending, but also where we're making decisions, and so any issues of conflicts of interest are even more important. But let me give you an example of something that I'm setting out in my conference speech today to get a grip of the cronyism that we did see under the previous government.
No, sorry,
You'll remember during the pandemic,
but the thing is, Rachel Reeves, the point is, the hypocrisy is now. What Labour voters can't understand is if you said to the Tories, it's not OK to take donations for personal benefit, why is it different if you're a Labour MP?
I think the point that I'm making is that now we're in government, we will be doing things differently, and we won't be taking donations, for example, for clothes. Boris Johnson was Prime Minister when he was getting donations for wallpaper in his flat, which were not declared properly.
OK, so the only difference... So you say the only difference... the only difference is that it shouldn't be accepted when you're in government. OK, so the difference is being in government.
And that it should all be... And the other difference is that everything is declared properly.
Yes, but you weren't saying this last week, were you?
In government.
No, but you're only saying this now, after the media storm and after this has all become horribly public. Just a minute. We interviewed ministers on this programme last week, and you were all doubling down on this. You were all saying that it was absolutely fine, that there was nothing to see here, nothing to apologise for, you'd done nothing wrong. Now, the Monday after, the week before, you're saying, well, actually, yeah, now we're in government, we won't accept these gifts. But you weren't saying that last week. You've responded to the backlash.
Well, I've been Chancellor for 80 days, and since then I haven't taken donations for clothes, so I have changed what I've done since I've become Chancellor of the Exchequer. But we are also making sure we're getting a grip of cronyism, because I think what really grates is that people donate and then they get something in return. And what we saw during the pandemic was people who had donated to the Conservative Party then getting government contracts, government money for things like PPE. And in some cases, that PPE never arrived. In other cases...
Or a pass in the case of Lord Ali, who's at the centre of all this, a pass to number 10, which nobody could quite work out why he got it, but now we can. I mean, for example, what's the connection between Lord Ali, his pass, and Angela Rayner getting a free holiday on him to New York? Great flights there and back, wonderful stay in a luxury apartment that he owns. Well, I do beg your pardon, she paid for the flights. I was misinformed on that. However, she had a wonderful holiday at his expense in New York. Why? Why would he want to give her that, and what good would that do the country?
Well, I expect, Richard, many of your viewers, and maybe you as well, have stayed at friends' apartments or flats or houses in the past. And I think it is reasonable that, you know, if you own a home in a beautiful city or place, that you lend it to your friends to have a holiday. I know that I've done that.
A Labour donor to a shadow minister. Well, can't you see the connection?
Well, I think it is perfectly reasonable that friends, if you're going on holiday, say you can stay in my apartment, and it's all declared properly. No one's trying to hide anything here. Everything was declared properly, and I think that's right. And I think it is also important that people that donate to political parties, that it's not, it shouldn't be a dirty word. Our politics relies on donations because the alternative is taxpayer funding for political campaigns. And I don't think anybody wants to see that when particularly we're going through a cost of living crisis. And so political parties, all political parties, rely on donors, big and small, to fund the leaflets that we put through doors, the digital ads, the billboards, and all of that.
Angela Rayner, the donation was for a personal trip. That stay in New York was a personal holiday.
And as I say,
that wasn't necessary for political business,
I expect there are many... No, I didn't claim that. And what I've also said is I expect there are many people watching this programme, and maybe you as well, have stayed in a friend's apartment or property before when you've gone on holiday.
The last time I checked,
friends lend each other apartments.
I don't make government policy, and I can't hand out passes to number 10 Downing Street, which may lead to an influence on government policy. I mean, it's a completely different set of circumstances. So you've already said that since you've been in government...
Which is why politicians have to declare things.
No, but sorry, Rachel Reeves, you said it's just like viewers who might have a holiday home lending it to a friend. And now you're saying, well, actually, it's completely different. That's why we had to declare it. Of course it's completely different, because you're politicians. Nobody wants you influenced by people giving you donations. Finally, you've said that you're no longer, now that you're in government, you'll no longer accept freebies. So was the Prime Minister wrong, then, to accept the donation from the Premier League of tickets worth £4,000 for the Taylor Swift concert?
Well, I've said that I will no longer take donations for clothes. I don't begrudge ministers or shadow ministers going to football matches or pop concerts. Keir's a massive Arsenal supporter. Of course he's going to carry on going to watch Arsenal games.
It was the Taylor Swift concert
you
that
asked about
Susanna was
football
asking
as
you
well.
about. It was the Taylor Swift concert.
The gift was from the Premier League
well, I don't
for the
begrudge.
Taylor Swift concert.
OK, I don't begrudge ministers or shadow ministers going to pop concerts and taking hospitality tickets, as long as it's properly declared. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, Minister, you may not begrudge it, but I can tell you the voters do. You don't seem to be in step with public opinion on this at all. But thank you very much for joining us and making your defence.
I understand.
I'm so sorry, we're out of time, but thank you for being with us this morning.